Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, based on which time zone that you are in. My name is Nuzhath Ayaz. I'm the founder of Unleash. We consult globally and virtually in the area of learning and development, coaching, and organization cultures. I'm very happy to bring to you another series of video on insights from experience. Last time we had Dr. Sharon Jacob, who spoke about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'd like to really thank all of you who have shown us support and love by liking our videos and subscribing and sending us all those wonderful messages. Dr. Sharon Jacob is an author, scholar, and a professor, and she's going to talk about unconscious and conscious bias today. So, Sharon, welcome. It's such a pleasure to see you once again, and thank you for making the time.
Right, and thank you, Nuzhat. And I also want to thank the viewers who are liking the video, sending us positive messages, and it is wonderful. Please keep the positivity coming. It's very inspiring that our work and our content is inspiring you. I also think it's wonderful, Nuzhat, that you are as the founder of Unleash, are wearing multiple hats. You are coaching leaders. You are writing content, you're designing organizational journeys, and you're doing so much. And I wanted to start by asking, how do you stay focused and inspired and stay sane through it all?
That's $1 million question, Sharon. I wish I could answer it right away, but I'm going to reserve the answer, and maybe we can make a particular series in that particular area as well. But
Yeah,
thank you
okay,
so
fair
much.
enough, fair enough.
All right, so let's get started off. In fact, the viewers, it's important for you to know that when we bring content to you from Unleash, we have a lot of discussions, we research, and we see various perspectives before we discuss a particular topic. And
Mhm.
that's how this content is different from, most other contents that you might, come across. And talking about conscious and unconscious bias, what stood out for me the most is that people usually try to speak about unconscious bias and try to
Yeah.
see what their unconscious biases are, but are we really working through a conscious bias to start with, things that I already know about, what I believe,
Mhm.
and that's showing up in my workplace as a leader, to my stakeholders or my team. So Sharon, you want to talk about that to the viewers, the conscious aspects and the unconscious aspects of our biases?
Yes, I think that's such a wonderful question. And this was something that you brought up. You said, here we are, we keep talking about unconscious bias, but what about the conscious bias? So the term conscious bias or explicit bias is bias that is visible, that we are conscious of, that we are aware of. So just to give you an example, for example, if I am in charge of hiring, and a resume comes across my desk, and I realize that the candidate that I'm interviewing has gone to the same college or educational institution that I have. I feel like I'm consciously biased to them. I'm skewed towards them, and I would prefer to hire them versus another candidate, because they have gone to the same institution that I have gone to. And so therefore there is I am consciously aware of the decision that I am making, and my bias is visible, and I'm
Correct.
making no bones about hiding that bias. Versus an unconscious bias is biases or implicit bias. Unconscious or implicit bias is bias that is invisible. We are not aware of why we are making the decisions we are making. We just simply make it, not recognizing that we are skewed in a particular direction. For example, if I am a person who really likes working, or who likes to have an all male team,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not very comfortable or interested in hiring women. And if a resume comes across my desk and that's a woman, I'm going to find excuses to not hire the woman, but not recognizing that I am implicitly biased towards her gender, but seeing it as if rationalizing it in many other ways. So the difference between conscious or explicit bias versus unconscious and implicit bias has to do with visibility. Conscious and explicit bias, your bias is visible. The leader is aware of the bias that they are and the ways in which they're skewing the direction of the decision. And unconscious and implicit bias is biases that are invisible, that we are not aware of, and the ways in which our implicit biases or our unconscious biases are skewing the directions of our decision. So that's one of the differences between the unconscious and conscious bias. Yeah.
And that reminds me of an example that I shared with you during our discussions about the culture fit, the
Yes.
term that, a lot of organizations usually, say culture fit. You're not a culture fit. And this friend of mine who was sharing with me that she was rejected because she was not a culture fit. And
Right.
is that also a bias then?
Yes, of course. In fact, I think you use the term culture fit to talk about a broad or a generalizing way to be biased towards a person without actually reflecting whether whether that person is a fit or not. And
Hmm.
probably you have implicit biases towards that person, and you're using the term culture fit to cover up those implicit biases. Of course, yes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really interesting, isn't
Yes,
it? That the way
right?
our
Yeah,
mind works. Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
also, I think that we also discussed about how leaders can benefit if they understand and they get more aware about their biases. So
right.
chances are, yeah, the chances are, I mean, I was just thinking about, and you shared with me, and we were discussing that when leaders become more aware, they're likely to be more empathetic. They're likely
Yes,
to be more aware, and the behavior is going to be much better because, like it or not, if we are biased, others who see us being biased know about it.
correct.
And once they realize it, they're likely not to really respect us or trust us because we are operating from a bias. So there could be a lot of
Yes.
positive impact in leadership, in cultures,
Mhm.
and in leading people and teams when we get more aware about our biases, isn't it? And that brings me to our next
Yeah.
topic, which is how do you think conscious and unconscious bias are connected?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question. Again, this comes from the conversations that we had.